And we're going to start with the Kappa one.
I'm going to go ahead and bring my screen up and we can look at it together.
Okay.
Let's.
Okay, yes. Oh, that's a nice one. Where'd you find this one at?
Well, excuse me. Um, yeah, actually, so this is the one you. So here, first of all, let's take a look at this one. This is the one you sent me,
Correct.
and so when it comes, so you're using the typical technique of tracing vectors, which
Right.
uses that tool. Now, if we zoom in, the one thing to look at any picture you want to trace is if you
Mm-hmm.
zoom in close, you can see when you trace it
Oh,
only traced parts of it. And
right.
also this star is just, it's not clear. Okay, it's real fuzzy. So
Right.
because it's fuzzy when you zoom into it, you're going to get poor tracings. So
Got you.
rule number one is get a high resolution of the logo as you can. Now,
And do you just type in HD when you're looking for high resolutions?
no, well, a couple of tricks on that. Um, First off, do you understand clearly on the difference between what a vector line is and a bitmap is?
Truly, I don't.
Okay, that's a good place to start then. So, what you have here, this colored picture, is what's called a bitmap. And if you zoom in on it, it's really made up of a bunch of little pixels. And
Mm-hmm.
VCarve needs that to be traced to create these other lines that I've highlighted, this pink dotted line right now. That's called a vector line. Now, a vector line is different than a bitmap line in that, let me go out here. All the lines you draw in vector in VCarve, like if I draw this line here, that is called a vector line. And how I know that is that if I right click and go down to node edit, vector lines are made up of these points. So if I move one point, the other lines move with it, but they
Mm-hmm.
don't get fuzzy.
Okay.
And I can enlarge this. I mean, I can take that drawing and I can enlarge it as big as I want, and it won't get fuzzy. It'll stay a nice straight line.
Okay.
Bitmaps, on the other hand, are made up of lots of little pixels. Like it's kind of like, well, photography, JPEGs. If you ever seen a photograph that gets fuzzy when you enlarge it,
Mm-hmm.
that's really what happens to what's called a bitmap.
Okay.
Bitmap is a general term used for several kinds of files or several kinds of pictures, but they're all all of them. None of them are vector based. So VCarve requires you to trace that to create your outline in order to do your carving.
Mm-hmm.
But because bitmaps get fuzzy when you enlarge them, if you start out with a real small bitmap, which a lot of stuff on the internet is real small because it only has to be as big as a thumbnail, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
when you enlarge it, they get fuzzy.
Okay.
So, what I recommend people do is first off, see if you can get the highest resolution possible. And I'll actually, let's go ahead and take a look at that. This other one I got over here.
Okay.
Uh,
Now, I did notice on this one right here, the wording in the banner is not as clear as the other one was.
and that's true. And so, usually, what happens in bitmaps is like this wording down here, it's still
Mm-hmm.
pretty fuzzy.
Right.
In fact, I mean, this is better than the other one, but it's
Right.
not a lot better. Now, clearly, the wreath versus this is a little different. Some of
Right.
the wording is different too. I mean, I guess it's the same word,
It's
just
the same word. It's just that circle instead of the reef.
right, right. And what I do like about the now, the arm and the hands are slightly different. What I do like though is it has a nice dark outline around it.
Right.
That means it's going to trace better.
I
Now,
like that about it too.
yep. Now, this logo work that you're doing, these crests,
Hmm.
do you have a good relationship with the
The
founders of
fraternity, the
the
fraternity, yeah.
yeah, these
Uh-huh.
fraternities?
Hmm.
Because lots of times these organizations will have a graphic artist and they can supply you what's called vector-based art.
Okay. I'll
And
see if they have one.
yeah, and typically it is Adobe Illustrator file.
Okay.
So here's, I'll show you a little something here that if I were to go under, okay, so up here is where you download your bitmap. You see the upper left?
Right.
If they have a vector-based file, you would download it right here.
Okay.
And when I open this up, let's look up here. Okay, so I mean, it shows these, but I don't, let me see. These are actually VCAR files. That's where they're showing up. Let's look at it.
Oh, okay. I'm like, oh, those are ones I
Yeah.
sent
Let's
you.
look here like this. Okay, see, these are all VCAR files. That's why they're showing
Okay.
up as VCAR files. But if you look down the lower right, let's bring this up here. Here are all the different kind of files that are actually vector-based files.
Okay.
And right down, where is it? Let me look at it here. Okay, this first slide, you see that AI?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That stands for Adobe Illustrator.
Okay.
They might send you something called an EPS. They might send you something called the DXF. Any of those will work. They're all vector-based drawing files.
Okay.
What's really great about those is that when you bring them in, you will end up, they will send you lines like this, which are already vector-based, and
Right. That'll actually
you
help.
don't have to trace them.
Okay.
In fact, they're perfect.
So even with this, even if I can find a DXF or an EPS or an AI file, I should be good.
You'll be in really good shape.
Okay.
Now, if you can't, that's where you look for really high resolution uh, video or images. And let me see if I can find something here as an example. Uh, dig around here a little bit.
And that way also I wouldn't have to recreate so many lines either.
Well, that's exactly right. You wouldn't have to create a lot of lines, and so let me see. Okay. Okay, let's try this. Um, so if you were searching for, is that the right one there?
Yes.
Okay. So when you go into your web search, typically go into images,
Mm-hmm.
and I found that one on here someplace. But
Okay.
you also have some options here where it says all sizes, and I always go for large.
Okay.
And then sometimes it's even good to go for black and white.
Oh, okay.
Now, got this one coming up. There's not a lot of other black and whites here.
Right.
So in this case, then I would probably go back and just take all colors. And that's how I searched, and I went down. Then if you look at some of these, see that in the lower right corner, it shows you how big the symbol is,
Okay.
how big the file is. And typically you want to find something as large as possible, and that'll give you a better image. And I'm not sure which of these I ended up downloading, but it was one of them. Now, the other thing, let's call this, they're calling this, let's go vector logo. Try something like that.
Okay.
And now this one here says vectorified, which let's click on it. Okay, so here's somebody. So this
I have a
company,
Shutterstock account.
what's that?
I have a Shutterstock account too.
Yeah, I wonder if they may, oh, here, okay, so here's one right here.
They actually might have it.
They might. And so, yeah, I mean, let's see what this says when I pop this up here. Well, right now, this is still coming up as a bitmap. So it's not
So how do
actually,
you recognize that this is a physical bitmap? Because it says
well,
PNG.
yeah, because it's a PNG, exactly.
Okay.
Uh, I mean, also because it shouldn't be fuzzy like this, although sometimes they protect it. Let's just look down here a minute.
What if you clicked on vector logo right there? Will that help?
Well, what that's just saying is that these are
Oh, those are
tags
just the
that give
related
it. These are
tags.
just like ways of sorting for it. So let's see, they're calling it a vector. Oh, it's a PNG, which means it's not a vector.
Okay.
Um, so let's see.
So normally vector files, like you said, will be DXF, EPS, and
They
AI.
will be, yes.
Okay.
Now, this is really just an ad for Shutterstock. I don't think it has
Okay.
anything to do with this website. I'm a little cautious of these websites if I don't recognize them, even though it looks like a nice website, because
Yeah, I've never seen this one before.
well, see, the other thing that makes me a little suspicious, they're probably just kind of, they're calling it a vector, but it's not a vector. They shouldn't be doing that. That's misleading. They say they call it logo vector. That's
Yeah.
misleading. And if I click on this, edit vector, let's see here. You see, if I zoom it up, it's just
Yeah, it becomes
thing.
real fuzzy.
Yep, yep. So that's no good.
Got you.
Uh, like I said, if you have a good relationship with the organization, then I would go to them and ask for the vector file. If you don't have access to that information, lots of people do logos, they don't have direct access to the organization, then this is what they'll
Right.
typically do. Now,
Okay.
see, okay, so this looks pretty clear right here in this drawing.
It does, but
It claims
I
it's
see
only 800
PNG
by
too.
67, so it's probably at that size, but you see it. And so let's look at this. If I,
Those laurel leaves look real good though.
you know, it actually is, it's not bad. Yeah, so I mean, this is where you could take and copy the image, and we'll go
Uh-huh.
down to back to vcarve here. And let's paste it. But see when it comes in, it's not very big.
So, okay, so even with that, couldn't I just make it larger
Well,
just
yep,
to
I can.
see?
Yep. And this one actually does look somewhat better than even the one I have up there.
And I could put that in Photoshop and clean the back out.
Absolutely. Yeah. And of course,
Hmm.
I mean, the thing is that even in vcarve, you may or may not need to clean it out. And we could just go straight to
Right. So wonder
tracing.
if that one will trace nicely.
So let's look here.
Should we do it in color or
So here's a little thing to think about color.
okay?
If if I did the black and if I did just the black color, everything now that's turning red. So let me change that trace color to something bright so it's real obvious right there. So that's what's going to trace.
So the stars wouldn't trace, and
nope, they
then
won't. But here's let me show you. Let me walk you through. We'll use this one. Let me save this file out, and I'm going to save this as. So I'll just save that for this class, and I'm going to take this. Let me close that a second. I'm going to bring this onto the middle here. Get rid of that one altogether. Treat this like I was actually going to trace it out. So I'm going to go ahead and enlarge that approximately the size I want. That looks pretty good. Okay, we'll zoom in on it. And I'll go into the trace. So there's a couple of strategies you could use with these complex designs that have lots of color in them.
Mm-hmm.
We have a real nice black outline around a lot of the outside, and that looks pretty good. So I'm going to start by just taking the black, and I'm going to preview that. And that's given me some pretty good lines. The wreath, not so much, and the stars, not so much, but everything else looks pretty reasonable. So I'll apply that. And then let's go in here and see. I'm going to call that black. And then I'm going to add a new line, turn that one off. And I'm not sure what else we might want to trace it. Well, actually, let's go in here and.
What about maybe the white or yellow or?
Well, when we trace the black, we actually got that inside edge. So we already have that shape. What we don't have is this scroll.
Right.
So let me just look at something here. That's similar to what that, okay, so let's see here. Okay, yeah, so scroll, that's what we want. So then what I'm going to do is go in here and notice how the scroll is made up of red and gray.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm also going to turn my colors down here, just a couple fewer grays. So I only have one gray to deal with. Let's see how this, one or two maybe. Let's see how's that look. Okay, that doesn't work. So you start clicking around, and sometimes just by and see that still isn't. It's kind of, I mean, parts of it are okay, but parts of it are not so much. Let's see here. So this is where it gets a little tricky. So I'm going to, well, let's see. Let's just.
It got some of the stars and the wording up top too.
Yeah.
But to say if you turned it to black and white,
then it gives me a little bit more possibilities.
It does, but it doesn't do that laurel leaf like it's supposed to.
No, it doesn't. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to preview this and apply.
Banner's better.
But then I'm going to go up here and call this one the scroll, add a new layer, turn everything off here except. And then what I'll do is I don't need this other information. So I'm going to just get rid of all of that and just save the scroll, since that's the one that was looking pretty, kind of okay.
Okay.
So now if I, and that, let's call that outline, because that's really what that was. Turn that back on. Turn off the scroll. So this is where I go start working back and forth. Okay.
Okay.
So I don't need that information. And now I can turn the scroll back on.
Now just need to get the laurel leaves.
Yep. So here's one trick with let's talk about the stars for a minute.
Okay.
Sometimes shapes like the stars, especially stars, easiest just to go into this star tool and
I totally forgot about that.
just draw them out manually. And
And
now
then you
I'm
can
going to
just
take
copy
it.
and paste that.
Yep, I can just copy and paste that over. Or drag and paste it like that.
You know, I didn't realize that um you could do things in like you didn't have to trace it all at once. You know what I mean? You can do different layers to trace, is what I'm saying. I didn't realize that.
That's why I wanted to show it to you because it's a way for you to work on different sections of it and still, make it work pretty well. So, like this hand. So now, have you been practicing much node editing?
I've been practicing it, but I'm doing okay, just not where I want to be.
Okay. So part of it has to be, there's two things you have to think about. One is you could obviously draw a lot of detail in V-carve, but if it's so small, your machine may not be able to carve it. So something like the hand. Now, how large are you carving this? Let's talk about that first.
So you see the crest behind me,
Hang on just a second.
the Delta one?
Yeah.
That's the one you helped me do.
Okay.
So that's 2.5 feet tall. The smallest I want to go is 1 foot, but the biggest I want to go is 3 feet.
Okay.
That's the biggest.
Okay. Well, with that in mind, then it might be worth, if we take a look at this hand, this is actually a really good example of where learning how to use the node editing can come in handy. So first of
Okay.
all, I'm going to go ahead and select, I do one other thing. I'm going to change the color to black. Okay. So again, you'll have to maybe practice a little bit, see how much detail you get. But for one thing, what I would do if this were mine, I would take those little pieces up there, just delete those. And then I would go into this one and go into node edit. And I would start probably just draw this whole upper part as a pen. So to do that, I could go over that one, go right click and hit delete point. Delete point. Delete point. Delete point, and I don't even need this one. So let's get that one. And then up here, I could grab those nodes and just drag them over up to the corner of that pen. Now, right now,
So you would just make it one whole.
I think to start with, I would, because I could go back and add some of this detail here and do it later if I wanted to. And I'll show you how to do that in a bit. There's several things we have to think about when we're designing this. One is right now that's a curved Bezier line.
Mm-hmm.
And I might want to make that perfectly straight. So what I'm going to do is have the tip of my cursor on it. So you see a little wavy line there. That means I'm right on the line with the tip of the arrow. Right click, and I want to make that to a straight line. And then bingo, I have a straight line. And then down here, I'm probably going to do some pretty much the same thing I did up there. I'm going to take that, delete point, delete. And if you use the D key on your keyboard, it actually makes this work pretty quick. So I just do that really quickly with the D key on my keyboard. And here, if I hit the L key on my keyboard, it'll make it go straight. So,
Okay, I see what you did.
yep. And then down at the arrow, so I'm going to start out, basically what I like to start with designs like this is I like to start out with just getting the outline established first. So
Okay.
that's working, well. And let's just take that and delete all of these parts. And then this part, I can stretch this back out. And you see that little white gray dot right there at the tip of my arrow?
Yep.
So that's a midway point. And all straight lines have them. So like there's one right here. It's hard to see, but when I put my cursor over it, turns square like that. I can grab that, it automatically inserts a node, and I can drag that up to that corner of the arrow.
Oh, okay.
So I can very quickly make this shape, kind of organize the shape a little bit. And here I'm going to make that a straight line again. Look at that dot. And then if we actually wanted this part to be rounded, we could go in and let's delete that point, delete that point. Now go over this line. See the squiggly there? It means I'm over the line, and convert that to an arc.
Oh.
And now I have a nice round shape right there.
And then you can do the other side that way too.
Yep, just like this. So you can redesign the shape, how you might like it if you want to get a little more detail in there.
Because that's how it's supposed to look, actually.
Is it
Because
okay?
it's a spear. It's actually a spear. The hand is holding.
Got it. Okay, well, good. That's
I'm like, that's exactly what it's supposed to be a spear the hand is holding.
And then like right here in this hand, we might want to add a little bit of detail right in there. And I would probably go in here. Now I'm going to take and delete this span. Let's see where it says delete span.
Okay, I've never used that before.
I got rid of. And then here I'm going to delete that point and then delete that span. And now what I'm going to do is just take this guy and get a little closer. And then I'm going to use my connect tool over here for join and just join those with a couple of, well, I went the wrong place. Not where I want it. Let's try this one. Get that join and that one.
Okay.
And like I said,
how would I, okay, so you see the fingers?
Yep.
How would I get that kind of detail?
Okay.
Because it still has to show as a hand.
Right. This is where you can start working these vectors to give you kind of the shape you want. And, if you want curves on it, let me tweak this a little here. Okay, so let's take this triangle as a starting point. Like I said earlier, you can start with whatever vectors you have and just start to modify them. So I could bring that up like that. I could bring it down. I could bring that out a little bit, give it a little shape. And if I wanted to convert that, I could smooth that point, which will make it into a couple of Bezier curves. So it has a little curve to it.
Yeah.
And now that I've created one of those, again, I'm not sure we'll go back and take a look at this for carving purposes, but once you have a basic shape like that drawn, and then again, if we wanted to take that over, so connect it a little bit more with those other. So those are 4 fingers coming in.
It looks like 4 and a thumb. I don't know.
Like I said, it depends. I'm going to take this one and just drag it up here for a minute. Go back into node edit, drag some of these around here. And let's try. Again, some of this I don't, I don't fully see the detail, but I'm assuming there's some detail there with this thumb. So it, again, I don't know if this your carvings might be big enough for this detail to fit.
Okay.
We'll check that later. But this is where some of your artistic interpretation of the main drawing is going to come in. If you had a high res image here, it might tell you more. But yeah,
Because me, I would just follow that shadow I see, honestly.
right. Anyway, so you could take and duplicate your shapes if you wanted to join them. We could do something like this where and again, this is where I would end up using the join tool probably to join it straight across. And once you join them, then you can go back in and start editing.
Okay.
So again, this is just kind of a lesson in some basic. Oh, then like this one up here, I could go in and just clip that out with the clip tool.
Okay.
And then, okay, so now notice I've got two different parts. I really need those connected.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna hold the shift key down. And then I'm gonna go into what's called the join tool. And it shows that I have two open vectors starting out. They're two separate vectors. When I join them, I'll have one closed vector, which is basically one loop, continuous loop.
Okay.
But that's a good thing. Just finish up a couple of details here, then we'll take another look at another part of this. And again, if you wanted any of these to be rounded or smooth, you can simply do that, and they'll actually add a little curve to it.
Okay.
So if you wanted those corners smoothed,
that looks more like a hand.
yeah, it's coming along. It is. Yep. So something like that.
Okay.
And then going back to the pen up here, if you did want some shape up here, I just grabbed my drawing tool and I can actually just add, turn on my snap up here. And that way, when I bring this back together, it'll join it.
Got you.
So I've added a little detail to the middle. You can add detail to the
spear.
Is it a spear? Okay.
Yeah.
Not sure if it was an arrow, a spear, or a quill.
Spear.
Yep. So that adds some of that detail. Then going back over here, I'll give you a little step here on this one. You see how jagged it is all the way around. If you wanted to smooth that out, you could go into this and you could smooth all those points like that. It's a lot of work, but there's a simpler way of doing it when you have an outline like this. There's a tool right here in the middle called Curve Fit. And what that does, it takes all those straight lines, and the one you want to use is the Bezier curve. And tolerance wise, I guess I would start out maybe about 0.01. And do I want to keep sharp corners? I do want to keep those inside corners there if possible. And then I preview it. And it didn't do too much. I think that's because this is a pretty large drawing. So let's go back and increase our tolerance. Preview it again. Okay, so that got us a little closer. But at least now I could go in and start pulling some of these vectors around.
Okay.
And then I could and start shaping this out the way I might want it to be. Now, since these are actually Greek letters, there's a very
Yes.
good possibility that you could even go in and just retype those.
Well, how would I get so yeah, this should have Greek letters on it. Well, I have
Yes.
Greek, what's it called? I have
You have a Greek
Greek
font?
lettering. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, then you could use, I don't know if this may have, I'm not even sure if it has it. Let's look here. I don't know that I have it on my system.
It's either under symbol or it would literally say Greek.
You know, I've seen it occasionally on some computers that I use. I haven't noticed it on this one, but let's keep looking. Let's see, I've got quite a few.
I don't see it.
So,
Because at first mine was under symbol, and then for some reason it changed to Greek.
spelling wise. No, it's not, I don't think I have it then. So let's see here. Okay, so it's symbol wise. But let's just take, I tell you what, if you have the font on your computer,
I do.
let's just take this N as an example.
Okay.
I would go into my text tool.
Mm-hmm.
And that box right there represents my text. So obviously it needs to be bigger. So there, that looks pretty good. Let me click right there in the middle.
Okay.
And let's
So you can
get,
just add an N.
yep, and all I have to do is exactly. So then you would just add that into like that.
Got you, and
For
just
your other
retype
Greek
them
letters,
myself.
yep. So that's how, so if you have that font, then that would clean up those Greek letters. So again, what I'm showing you here, it's a hybrid of some tracing, some node editing, and then possibly some manual drawing.
Okay.
But you
I
saw what
can
we
do
did with
that.
the star. Now on these leaves up here, do you have a preference for the wreath versus the beads?
It's at their when I redo their stuff, it has to be exact. It's actually the wreath that is supposed to be on here, not the little bally things.
Got it, not the beads. Okay.
Yeah. But that bow is supposed to be there too. Like I know I can do a circle for the bow in the middle.
Yeah, so like this one, I would get rid of all these extra lines because those are not needed. And this is a good example of where you really could go in, and this is how I would draw this. I would click on that corner with my line. I would click down here, just click on the high spots.
Okay.
And I'm not sure, let's just click one more out here, one the low spot, high spot, low spot, high spot. Try a couple of things here. And so now that I've roughed that in, I'm just going to go into node edit. And this is where I could turn this to let's get rid of that one actually, delete that and turn this line into an arc. And then I could just draw that up to a nice little curve right there.
Okay.
Get rid of that node and put an arc in there instead. And draw that down. And then on these corners, I'm going to simply smooth them and drag that around and use my handles to create the bow shape. May not need that one. don't think I need that one. This one I'm going to put right there in the middle, assuming this is kind of a two-part bow, kind of like a
Yeah,
butterfly.
it's one of those like bow ties.
Oh,
So
got
it
it.
kind of
Oh,
it's a
sure.
bow
That makes
tie.
sense. Got it. Well, there, that, yeah, okay. So you could edit that to fit your desired shape for that. And we might be able to get rid of that one and bring this up to the corner.
And then it just looks like it needs to be more central, the middle node thingy on
The
the
round
right hand
parts.
side. On the right hand side,
Oh,
yeah, that
up there
one.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so that way you can tweak that to fit the shape you want.
Okay.
If you want to do a little bit more of alignment, let me show you a little trick here. Let's say that node was over there. It's like, well, I really want those to be lined up. Now, you may or may not want this, but if I select just those two black nodes and I hit the X button on my keyboard, that'll align them in the left and right direction. Watch how they jump. See how it jumped?
Oh, I see it. Yeah,
And I
they
can
do
do the
need to be
same over
lined up. I don't
here.
want a lopsided bow.
Yep. And then now that they're both red, I can use the arrow keys of my keyboard to move them over a little bit. I,
Okay.
I can move them down a little bit. So you can make little tiny adjustments by selecting them and using the arrows in your keyboard.
Okay.
And then on the leaves on here, before we go any
Goodness.
further, let me jump ahead. Let's we'll come back to this. I'm going to save this. Turn off the bitmap here for a second. Let's go to toolpaths, and I'm just going to grab a V-carve toolpath.
Now, what I was thinking, since you helped me do the Delta Crest in 60-bit V-carve,
Yeah.
if I would have changed it to a 45, does it give a lot of difference?
On a carving this size, well, first of all, you got your pass depth. That's important, right?
Yes.
So the main difference you'll see is that the side of the carving is going to be steeper with the 60-degree. And when you have real small detail, that can be an advantage.
Okay. I can stay with the 60. That's, I'm just thinking.
It may work fine. Let me see if I have what I have up here. Let's go with the 60 right here. And I'm just going to do a quick preview of this.
Okay.
Okay, it says I have some issues with the vectors. I'm not sure what they are, but I'm going to just skip over that for now.
Okay.
We'll go back and take a look at that in a little while. Okay, so how come it didn't get that N? Why didn't it get that? Let's go back and take a look at that.
It's not highlighted.
Let's try it again. Okay. And if I preview it, and let's go. So the reason I did
shows it shows perfectly in a way here. However, I really know it's not going to show up like that. You know what I mean? When it carves itself out. Like because the pi and in the scroll, the first Greek letter and the last Greek letter, it wasn't that smooth like the N is. You see what I mean? Even though it shows it on here as if it is.
Right.
Looking back at the 2D, I know it's not. You see what I mean?
Yeah. So if I highlight that, that's where it's carving. So the pi is going to have pretty straight lines on the verticals and stuff. But you are going to have these points at the top and the bottom.
Okay. So that's my thing. It's the drawing almost tricks me even though it almost tricks me to think that it's going to come out the right way. And I think that's where I'm getting my stuff messed up.
Right. Let me see if there's one other setting here. Yes, what you're saying is accurate. The reason you can't tell some of that detail here is because on the computer screen, when it enlarges, this is actually like a bitmap. It gets fuzzy, so you lose some of that detail.
Okay.
But we do see here how the pen up here worked out pretty well.
Actually, it worked out perfect. I'm gonna leave it just like that.
Yeah. Here's a little trick I'm going to show you. So let's take and let's just do. Okay, so I'm going to draw a box around here that's 10 by 8. And I'm going to go back into my setup here temporarily. And let's make that 10 wide by 8 tall. And I'm going to move my design so it cuts my arm and my scroll. And let's just select those objects right there.
Mm-hmm.
And okay. Now, see how much crisper it is?
Yes.
And I can
preview pieces.
Yeah, so this is how by doing this, V-carve is only has a very small piece it's looking at, and so it doesn't suffer from getting blurry.
Got you. Now, as I'm looking at it right now, you see how the arm is hollow?
Yeah.
How, like if I wanted it to look like the spear, if I wanted the arm to look like the spear,
right?
How it's not hollow, how would I do something like that? Like almost invert it.
If you wanted the outline of the arm, well, okay, first off, recognize that the background here is all being carved away.
Carved flatly.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, if all we wanted were the finger marks carved into that, here's one option. Let's take and split the screen here. It has to do with which vectors you are carving. So I'm going to go in and deselect
the middle.
This one right here.
Okay.
And now when I calculate and carve it out,
that's how I want it to look. Okay, so that's how I get that effect. Okay.
So what I just showed you there is a really important thing to understand about V-carving. V-carving likes to carve it needs to carve inside a line.
Gotcha.
So in this case, we had the outside line, the inside line, and then we had the finger lines. We had 3 lines. So it goes from the outside, it skips a set of lines, and then it goes to the next set of lines. So when we had all of
everything highlighted.
So I was skipping over that pair of lines and it was going to the fingers.
Okay.
So you could change which side of the line, so to speak, it's carving on by doing something like that.
Got you. Okay.
And now that I've done this, now that you see that, if you really want to play with the image, you could actually go in and I could give this a little bit more detail, maybe on the wrist here or something.
Oh, no, it was perfectly fine how you had it before.
Okay, well, we'll just leave it alone then.
Nope.
But you can
because when I duplicate like a shield or a crest of an organization, it has to be exactly the way they have it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like I can't do any style of embellishments.
Got it.
When I mean embellishments, I mean how you change the wrist.
Right.
Like it's there, but it is perfect just the way it is.
Okay.
So that was my one question. So that actually came out just great. And I like how the scroll came out.
Sure. Yeah, it
because
goes
of the
pretty good.
simple fact I've learned how to pour resin and I've learned how to colorize it. So instead of painting certain things, I can just fill certain stuff with colored resin.
Correct.
Okay. So I think
Now, do you know how to do, so this lower text here, you're probably going to have to go in and
recreate it.
recreate. Now, do you know how to do text on a curve?
Not in VCarve, no.
Okay. So for this one, what I would do is start out with, you take a curve, and let's just take, I'm going to go create a curve through 3 points. So I'm going to start here in the middle. I'll go over to the middle over here and just kind of stretch it down. That kind of represents my middle line right there.
Got you. Okay.
And then I'm going to take that text
and move it
and
down.
just move it down for now.
Okay. And then
now,
just recreate it.
Yep, I would go into text here and you would just do, you'd write your text on a curve, on a crest, and you just just bring it down someplace close.
Mm-hmm.
Try and size it about the height you think you want it. So let's try, that looks pretty good for now. And let's see, on a crest or kappa, try to get about the same
That's
length.
good.
Yep. And now that I have that, I then go into this tool right here. It's called Text on a Curve.
Mm-hmm.
It says select a single line of text, which we have. Hold the shift key down and select the curve.
Oh.
And then this
Move
one in
it
the
to,
middle here, which says on the curve,
right.
bingo.
Wow. So leave that there for me. So I can just go in and retype the what's it called?
I will do that.
Wow.
And that's that's what's pretty cool about the tool. So yes, if I go in back in here and I say
and just retype the Greek letters in, I should be
replace this with Greek
letters.
kappa text.
Got it. What that is so good to know. Thank you.
It is. It works. It's really a fun.
So okay, I can do that to the top half too. The top of the crest up there.
Absolutely. You could just retype it right it up there.
Okay, now this crazy laurel leaf.
Yeah, let's take a look at that. And let's take and go back.
Did you hit save so we ain't lose nothing?
Yeah, I will definitely. I'm going to move that over there for now. And I'm going to go back to our full size, which I don't remember what it was. 30 by 30.
It could have been.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Because you can always make the laurel leaves larger once they're done.
We could fit it. Yep. 36. Okay, so I will move that back in, but let's just go back up and work on these laurel leaves for a while. So they basically are all the same, except some are overlapping each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks, so if you look at these, so see how this has a large gap right there?
Mm-hmm.
This one has a large gap, large gap, large gap. So somebody took the same design and just applied it along there.
So I just need to do one of them.
You really do. So if we go into like this one, and I'm going to try and so let's see. So again, do you want you want the black?
I want the
showing?
black. Yeah, I want the
Okay.
black, and then that little line in the middle, I guess,
Yep.
to make
So
it
what
look
I
like
would
a
do
leaf.
this is where you end up going in and drawing these out manually. And again, I'm just going to go real quick here like this. Having showed you how to do the note editing. you'll be able to go in and tweak these if you want to. But
yeah, because I would make it a little bit more on the black itself.
well,
or should I not do that? Should I make it on the green?
well, see, really what I'm doing here is I'm outlining the green, and I'll show you why in a minute.
Okay.
Because it sounds like what you want to do is you want to carve the black, right?
Yes. So I might need another class.
Okay.
The only reason I'm saying this is because I got mine and some of the Kappa. There's like 9 altogether. And I'm gonna try and do some on my own. Like a AKA one. And the alpha one is a lot, and I'm really gonna probably need help on that one, the one I already sent you, but you said you sent me the file back. But I kind of want to try and do some other ones and to see if I got them done correctly so I tried to do the Delta Crest again off of the file you originally sent me.
Yeah.
And for some reason, the right-hand side of it, it's like when I try to duplicate it, it doesn't duplicate the exact same way the original did. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we'll take a look at that.
Okay.
Yeah, let's
like I said, I'm gonna need more than one class if that's okay.
That's just fine. No, I'm glad to help you. This is I think, and I'm videotaping this right now, so you'll be able to go back and review this too.
Okay.
Okay, so now that I've got this is what the reason I drew on the inside of the green line is now I'm going to use a tool down here called the offset tool.
I've used that before.
And I'm going to go outward and I don't know, let's call that an eighth of it. Well, let's see, an eighth of an inch. Hopefully we'll do it. Hopefully it'll be a little bigger. See, that's pretty big.
That's too big.
So here's one of the challenges you're going to face is that space right here is only an eighth of an inch in real life.
Okay.
So when you carve that, that's going to be a very tiny, tiny line.
But would I not use a different drill bit for that?
Nope, it won't change it.
Okay.
It won't help it. You're going to have very tiny lines for this. That'll be, on a 3-foot carving, it'll be pretty tiny. I mean, they'll show up, but they will be pretty tiny. But notice how big it gets around these other leaves. If we were to make it the size of that leaf right there, we're less than a 16th of an inch.
Okay. So
0.05.
That's a little bit better.
So that's less than a 16th of an inch space right there.
Okay.
So here's one other possibility is that, I'll take both those. I'm just going to do a demonstration. Let's see, where's okay, I'm going to go back and make this small again. If I go use the V carving, same thing we used before, and V carve these. Now that looks pretty good, but that, like I said, is going to look like a pencil line on your drawing. And maybe that's okay. You may have to do some experimenting with actually carving this to see if it has enough detail for you.
Well, I like the top one.
Yeah.
The one by itself. I like that one since you went in with just the green. So even with that, I could still make the laurel leaf around, couldn't I?
With this one right up here?
Uh-huh.
Sure. Um, like I said, it's not going to carve very deeply, which will be one of your challenges. But
Well, as long as it shows the leaf itself,
got it.
you know what I mean? Like if you
Yeah.
took the outline off and the surrounding of the not the middle part, but the outline.
Yeah.
If you took that off and then we just, I just duplicated this leaf all the way around, it still should give the same effect, correct?
Well, I'm going to do this two ways for you. Let me actually demonstrate that. I'm going to take that and I'm going to just take and duplicate that over here, and over here. Now we've got overlapping lines.
Correct.
What I'm going to do though is go in and get rid of some of those lines. Let's
Okay.
start by getting rid of these lines here.
Yeah, I've used this tool before. That's been my friend.
Oh, it's really great.
Yeah, because it's almost like a merge tool.
Yeah, right. So there. See, I merged those two parts together. I'm going to do the same up here too. I'm going to go like this.
Because then I also need to watch what lines am I cutting too.
That's true. It does take some practice for that. Okay, so
Because I need to see which ones lap over what.
I just made a mistake there, so I'm going to back up. Take these out and that one
And
out.
then that one right there.
So you
And
see how it kind of
then,
looks like these leaves are starting to overlap each other.
correct. And
So
that's what I wanted to do.
So let's take a look when we put these. I'll toolpath these. We'll take a peek at these, see how this looks. Oops. Okay, so we've got those. Now on the other side, I'm going to do something similar.
Okay.
Let's see here. Let's control copy.
Shouldn't you have done the middle part?
No, actually, I want this one right here.
Oh, got you.
I'm going to take that one and just shrink it down just a little bit. Flip it over.
And then turn it around.
Yeah, but I'm going to take that group, move that over there.
Okay.
And
So that's the outline and not the inside.
this is the outline, not the inside, right?
Okay.
So what I'm going to do on this section is I'm just going to take and clip out all these overlapping lines, maybe something like that. Although it's the other way around. So let's change that out here. Let's get rid of that one and that one.
And what about that little one up there in the
There. That looks more accurate.
what about if you look up in the corner, it's
Up
over
here?
one leaf. The one right below that one.
Right here.
Yeah, but you see how it's overlapping over that little point in the
Well, see, they're
upper.
both the top leaf and the bottom leaf overlap that one. This is under both of them. Oh, right up
No,
here. Got it.
yeah,
Got it.
yeah, right there. That's
Good
what I
eye.
meant.
Good eye. However, I do in fact have
I
to get
think
rid of
that comes out. Yeah.
all these. Okay, so now let's
So wait
take.
a minute. Hold up. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Hit Control Z because you see how some of those little pieces are there, and then that one's right there, sort of. Yep.
Yeah,
And then my fault. I'm talking too much.
no,
I'm
that's
sorry.
okay. For the carving, for what I want to demonstrate, I'm actually going to remove those for right now.
Oh, okay.
You can decide how you want how you want those parts to be. But what I want to show you here is there's two ways for you to think about how you want this carved. And
Oh, okay.
so I'm going to take both those, move those over here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hang on. Got a problem here with some of these. Let's try these again. 12 open.
12 open.
Doesn't make sense. Let's see here. Oh, but they're all closed now that I'm done. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Let's try this again here. Okay.
I like those. I like the ones on the right.
Yeah, yeah. So just so you know, there's two ways of doing it. If you find that this doesn't give you enough detail on the right, even though it looks nice here, if the lines aren't bold enough, you may end up going back to something like this on the left.
Okay.
Because part of the reason I say that also just from experience, these shapes are only about an inch tall.
Okay.
So they're pretty tiny. But I'll leave that for you to decide. I'll just take and move these vectors off to the side. I'll get this all cleaned up before I send it back to you.
Oh, no, you're fine.
Okay. And then
yeah, it was 36 and 36.
36. And then we'll move that back up into the middle. Something
Now,
like
as
that.
far as this banner looking at the bottom here, that looks crazy.
I missed picking it up. Let's go there.
Oh.
There. So those are some of the parts. You can work on those.
Okay.
Double check how centered I am. Let's bring this guy back up. There you go. So we're all pretty lined up there now. So let me save that.
And then I can see how the banner is looking.
Yeah. Yeah, so you can do some work on that one then. That should get you going. Decide what you want to do. Like I said, up here, you may decide just to edit what's here or recreate.
Oh no, I'm gonna create exactly what you did.
Okay.
And then just it's easier that way to recreate something than to try and finagle with what's there.
Sure. So let me save this one.
And you normally put your initials at the end, so I just know it's yours.
Yeah, that way you know it's. Actually, let's call this last file. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So we've got that one for now. And again, so all that I've showed you, you could apply any of those editing techniques like this hand. If you want to edit that some, you could do that. We covered quite a bit in here.
Yeah.
With that.
And I'll change the Greek letters and stuff over on everywhere I see Greek letters. I'll change those.
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna try. I was trying. Oh, the SG row file. You had mentioned something about that. The one with the letters and the poodle.
Yeah, let me see, bring that one up. Actually, let me go to the APA one first.
That's fine.
I could find, let's see, APA Crest.
It should say 3 feet. I think I put 3 feet.
Underscore
alpha. Yeah.
Alpha Crest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This one is giving me the blues. I'm like, it looks fine when I have the picture behind it, But you see how around the torch is at the top is it ain't supposed to look like that.
Well, a lot of what we dealt with on the last one applies to this one also.
Okay.
One of the
It's like
challenges.
I don't know what to get rid of, and I don't know what to keep once the picture is gone.
Got it. Okay.
Like those lines, those red and orange lines can come off because I got to get the detail first.
Right. Is that just an offset line that you created?
Yeah, it's just offset lines. I need to get the detail first before
Right.
I'm gonna deal with any of the offsets.
Well, one thing that the offset kind of offers you, and again, it depends on the look that you want. So I'm assuming you're cutting this out like you showed me, the one that's in your office there.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so starting with that in mind, well, there's two things I want to cover here. One is your bit choice, and secondly is kind of how the effect that the outline has.
Okay. Like I said, if there's anything you need to delete, just delete it.
That's okay. In fact, let's just double check something here. So let's first of all, usually when people send me something like this, is I just preview it, and
like that cutout is not supposed to look like that. Not with those points up at the top.
right. So that just goes back to note editing again. Let's take this outer line right here, which if I turn off that's the outside line.
Correct.
And if I do an offset on that of, let's say, 0.25.
See how it gives that point still?
Yep. And you know what? I noticed that earlier, and it just has to do how how that flame is going. So if you don't like it, what you could do is just go in and you could actually just delete it like that.
Okay.
And delete that, and maybe just give it just a little bit of little bit of shape there.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So you can edit that how you like, and that'll get rid of it. And clearly, then we don't need that line over here. And again, over here, I could do the same thing. I could just go in and just get rid of that one.
So much better.
Yeah. Yeah. So that keeps it simple. Okay. So and then we can take this one and then we can offset that. Looks like you were offsetting by maybe about 1/2 of an inch.
Because I'm just doing it for a physical cutout. So I remember when you showed me when I did the Delta Crest, you highlighted everything inside, which gave that border edge, and then you gave me an outline for it to cut it physically.
Yep, correct.
So that's what I was trying to do, and then I got frustrated.
So we got that little bit solved.
Yes.
So here's what I noticed first off. So let's just start with let's redo the cutout here. We'll take those two lines and take that line and cut out. Okay, so first question, are you dealing with 1-inch material?
I'm usually in between 7.5 and 1 inch. I'm usually in between, but I normally don't really say that I know it's 0.75 or I know it's 1 until I'm done with it and I actually measure the wood itself.
Okay, so let's just assume that in this case, if you're actually dealing with 1, then you're setting here. One thing that I noticed is you may be cutting a little deeper than you have to.
Okay, so how far should I go past 1 inch then
Usually,
to cut it out?
Maybe like that, 0.02.
Got you. Okay. I'm not that great with measurements, so
yeah,
I didn't know how far to go down.
So you have an HD 520 tool?
Yeah, but I don't have the new arm to it. I have an HD 4. I want to say I did an HD4 because when I took the
Okay.
class, the new arm had just came out
Right. The whole
when I took
gantry
your
system.
class.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was also thinking, should I do more passes instead of, it's saying 2 passes? Should I maybe do 3 so it
That's a
doesn't
really
take
good
as much
question.
wood?
So the first, yeah, let's talk about that. The first thing here is your bit choice for cutting
And I
this
was
out and cutting
using,
an inch
I,
deep.
okay.
You've got this set up at an 1/8 diameter bit.
Well, I was getting frustrated because even though so what was happening was I would try and cut my Delta crest again. And then I would say, okay, use the 1/2 inch that he originally told me to use to do the final cutout. But what I was noticing, it was taking more off the edge than I wanted it to. So then I changed to a 1/2 a bit. So it wouldn't take so much off of the border.
You mean
So
this?
that's the frustration I was getting. So
Okay.
once let's just say the whole thing is cut and the only thing I need to do is to do my final cutout. I'm using the 1/2 inch and what it's doing is cutting into my shape almost too much and not leaving enough peripheral. Like again, if you look at the crest back here, you see how it has this much border around it? Here, let me grab it real quick. Okay. So you see how when this got cut out, it had this much border in
Right.
between this and the inside detail. What it was doing when it was cutting it out again, it was taking more of this part off. It wasn't leaving this much of a thick border.
So
You see what
that,
I mean?
yep, I see what you're saying. Yeah. That
That's my
probably,
problem.
yep. Okay. So that probably has to do with one of these settings on the right here.
Okay.
If you set it on outside, it is going to cut on the outside of that line.
Okay.
So two things. First of all, I would recommend that you use a 1/4 inch
So
up cut.
I do use the 1/4 edge instead of the 1/2.
Yeah,
Okay.
use the 1/4 inch diameter end mill.
Okay.
And it's probably about as small as you want to go. An 1/8 inch, I don't think you're going to find an 1/8 inch that's going to work because they don't make them that long.
Okay.
So let's go with the 1/4 inch.
Gotcha.
That's the first thing. I'm going to go on the outside of the line. And right now, I'm just going to calculate that to get a quick look at it. Okay, it's okay. Reset this and preview. Okay, so that's going to cut
Yes,
through
that's what I'm
everything.
looking for.
Now let's go back and look at the 2D drawing again.
Okay.
And if I put a check mark, that shows me, those arrows show me where it's cutting, okay?
Okay.
That's the center of the router bit.
Got you. Okay.
And if I go up to the top up here and toggle on this solid look, that blue line is where the router bit is traveling.
Okay.
Notice
And
how
that's what I needed.
it's staying on the outside of my vector line.
Okay. Got you. So I
Now,
think that was an issue.
if I end up cutting on the line, notice how it looks now. See how
That's too much.
and then there is this weird situation where sometimes let's cut on the inside. This shouldn't be a problem. This will cut on the inside. And now you can see how it's cutting away at your border.
Yeah, and that's what I was having a problem with.
So if you have a problem with that, go back here and make sure you're cutting on the outside of the line.
Okay.
There are some situations where it'll actually cut on the wrong side, and there's a way to correct that. But when you have a continuous line like this, 99.9% of the time, it'll cut on the outside of the line.
Okay.
So just that's what you want to do is kind of the outside of the line with that.
Okay.
And then for your V carving, so let's see here. You've got two clearance paths set up here. And okay, so let's open up the V carving. And we've got two end mills here.
I didn't know what to do.
What that?
I didn't know what to do.
Oh, let's just get rid of both of those for now.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and select.
You want to do 60 again?
The 60 or the 90, either one. There's a slight difference. Let's go with the 60. You have a 60? Is that what you have?
I have a whole bunch. I got a
Okay.
60, a 45, a 90. I went crazy buying drill bits.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let's start with this one, the 60.
Because the Delta Crest came out great. So I would prefer it to stay like that. And I want to say you had me use the 60 V bit.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is where I just got frustrated and didn't know what to do. Like, I don't know what to take away. I don't know what to add. I know what it's supposed to look like.
Well, for starters, I'm going to just delete. I'm not going to select that outer line, that
Okay.
offset line. And I'm going to just calculate this.
Okay.
And let's preview it. And what do you think about that?
I like it. It is supposed to look just like that.
So here's what happened. If I take a picture of this,
Mm-hmm.
let me put this picture in right here. Okay, that's
How'd you take a picture of that quick?
What that?
How'd you take a picture of that quick?
I've got a little program called Snagit.
Oh, I use Snagit at work.
Yeah, and I can just do a screen capture. So that's just a picture, a bitmap now of your carving.
Okay.
Now, the reason that what happens is, and I agree with you, I think this looks good.
It does.
I think this is the way you want to carve it. What happened is that you had selected this offset line right here.
Mm-hmm.
So if you select that line and calculate, reset, and preview, it changes the whole image.
And that looks better. What do you think? You don't think that one looks better?
Well, let's take a picture of it and put them side by side.
So, of course, can you save this so I can always compare?
Oh, I sure can. And the reason I wanted to show you this is this by adding that one border line, it switches just like we looked at the other one we looked at.
I actually like them both. But by selecting that one extra line, it gave a whole different look.
It did. And
wow.
Yeah.
And I like both of them.
Now,
because go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Now, this first one, there's one other option we can pick here.
Okay.
If I go in, and this probably is why, if you were following the instructions from the class, this may have mixed you up on this particular one.
And I was.
And it depends on your settings. So let's go into this one and let's see, that's a 1/2 inch. I'm going to offset this again, another 1/2 inch.
Okay.
Now I'm going to go in, like those two lines.
Mm-hmm.
See here.
And the middle and the actual image itself.
Yeah, I've got, yeah.
Okay.
Just let me think about this a minute here. Just going to give me what I want. Let's just try it. It's easy enough to undo.
I'm gonna say we can always delete.
That's right. It did give you one.
Ooh, ooh,
Okay,
I like that one too.
but there's one more. Yeah, there's one. Let's see here. So now we got one more possibility here. If I go in and
Because you always can use the middle line to cut it out.
right, but the difference is that I want to cut deeper on that. Let's take the flat depth off of that. Okay, it's going to cancel. Okay, so let's see. If I calculate, it's going to cut a little too deep, maximum thickness. So what that means is I need to, okay, I'm going to do a little something else here. I'm going to offset these a little differently. Let's offset this to 0.4. Oh, I'm still cutting through. Oh, I know. Let's try this. Let's take and switch out to a 45 degree on this, or a 90.
So it'll give me a different look with a 90.
It'll give you a little different look. It will. Again, you can play around this to decide which look you like, but I should be able to, oops. Try to create a bevel out here for you to give you a nice little border on this.
Okay.
There we go.
So did you choose the middle portion too?
Not for that border, I didn't.
Okay. And you're using the middle as the cutout. Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, now that is the best one.
Now, what I
Ooh,
think
hit save so I don't forget
I
all.
will. I will. What I think I'd
This
like
is
to
the
do,
best one.
that's pretty cool, isn't it? Let's do one
Yes.
more thing here.
Now, how am I gonna get all of these doggone things back after you delete them?
Well, I'm going to save you examples of each of these. So
Oh, okay.
there, that's actually what I wanted there.
I love that.
So what I did was, let's go down through these tool paths. This is going to be rename design.
Okay.
And I'm going to rename this V order.
Okay.
Okay, so if we take a look at this, let's go in here and we didn't cut these out, but we kind of get the idea what they look like.
Yeah, the three different designs will be what helps.
Yeah.
And
But
I can always interchange in between each three.
Yeah, and I think this middle one probably we didn't decide what to do with the border of this, and you could cut right in the bottom of that.
That's too close.
And but see, this one gives that nice extra border around.
And I like the nice extra border.
Yep. And this looks a little plain on the right side.
And it's okay that it looks plain on the right side because I can do more than one design. And,
Sure.
people can choose what they want.
Yep. Now, here's one other thing I want to point out. Notice that what looks like kind of scratchiness right there.
Is that
That's
supposed to be
because,
flat?
well, that's because that's the tip of the V-bit doing all that carving. So,
So my question is, I remember in class when you told us to do clear outs.
yep,
So what would I use to clear that out? What would you suggest? A 1/4?
yep. So let's open that up. You could actually use 2 bits because it's a pretty big area, but let's start with adding clearance. Let's add a 1/4 inch end mill right here.
Is that the safest one to use, really?
Well, the difference between the two, so a 1/4 inch end mill, and you know what? Let me do this. Let's go ahead and calculate that and show you what it looks like.
Okay.
I'll show you the difference between the two. Okay, so now I'm going to select those two. Um, the 1/4 inch bit, this is where the 1/4 inch bit is going to cut.
Okay.
Yeah, I have that
To
one
flatten
check
out
marked.
spaces.
Yeah, and then the V bit's going to go back around the outside and get all the details.
Now, my question is, should it be best if I carve the design first and then go and flatten it out, or should I clear first?
Usually clearing first is best.
How come? Because the
Well,
design
because
isn't there.
what that?
The design isn't there. So why would I clear first?
Well, by clearing first, which looks like this,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like a roughing pass. It gets rid of most of the material.
Okay.
And then when you go back and do the V bit, it then cleans up the rest of it and adds
Okay.
all the detail.
Okay.
Now there's a couple, so that's why clearing is just usually the best practice.
Okay.
Now
I
there's
can do
two.
it that way. I just wanted to
Yep.
know the reasoning.
Now, one of the things that concerns me a little bit on this is you're carving a 1/2 inch deep.
Okay.
That's, I mean, it makes a nice relief and you could probably pull it off and make it work. However, some of these fine details in here, depending on the kind of wood you're using.
I'm usually using bamboo.
Oh, really? That's pretty
Yeah,
hard
that's how I
material.
did my Delta Crest. I did it out of bamboo.
Okay.
And they seem
Okay.
to love that.
Bamboo is wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's expensive as all get out.
Yeah, no kidding. And it's hard. It's hard. You're going to have to make sure you keep sharp bits to make that work.
That, and then I'm charging $400 a crest.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because it takes for the Delta one to do 2.5 feet, it took 5 hours just for the detail.
Yeah. Well, how deep you go with this is kind of a personal preference, but you could save a lot of time if you went a 1/4 inch deep.
You think the 25 would still look just as good as the half?
Well, let's do this. Let me take a picture of this and we'll compare it.
Okay. Mm, it does. I will have to see the rest of it cut
Yeah,
out, the border and stuff.
right.
Yeah, it still look just as good.
Yeah, and it'll save you quite a bit of time.
Okay.
And it'll, yeah, that's something worth considering.
No,
Uh,
it looks just as good.
yeah.
It really does.
Okay. Well, let's go back and take a look at each one of these bits for a minute. So first of
Okay.
all, the 60-degree bit, you're not going to see a lot of difference. If we were to, in fact, let's take this one. And if I were to change this out to a 45,
You just click 90, I think.
well,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm
90.
sorry. I call it a 45. It's actually a 90. The bevel side is 45.
Oh, got you. Okay.
Preview visible.
I just thought with it being the 60 being, I like the 60 better.
It gives you more detail. So that's usually why it's worth using. I use the 90 for a lot of other type of work, but
Okay.
it's a personal preference. Now let's
I
look
like
at
the 60.
yeah. Let's look at the settings here a little bit. I'm going to go inside right up where it says edit.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to edit just for this design. I'm not
Okay.
editing my library, but since you have the HD4,
Mm-hmm.
you may need to switch this down to when you're doing bamboo, right?
Yes.
So you're probably going to have to switch that down to that cutting depth
Okay.
and using a router or a spindle.
Router.
Okay. Well, then you don't control this here. You just run it pretty high speed, I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then feed rate, boy, I don't know. It's been a long time.
Isn't it less?
Well, you might be able to get by with 100 on your HD4,
Okay.
but I don't think you could go any faster than that.
I mean, even if it was at a 80 or 85, wouldn't that be okay?
That would still work, sure. You're gonna, yeah. Your HD4 isn't as strong or robust as the newer HD5, so you have to go a little slower.
Yeah, and I haven't. They said I can. Even you told us we can change our arm, and we can change. But even if I change to a HD5 arm, I'm still going to be using a router.
And, well, the one advantage of the new upgrade on the gantry arm there is that it's more rigid, so you can actually travel a little bit faster even with a router. So, but
Okay.
somewhere you probably would have good success here at 80.
That's fine.
Okay,
I just
we'll
don't want the
stick with
stuff to
that.
break. I want to be able to make things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then we'll look at and then on the end mill, pretty much the same setting. Let's take that 0.05 on the depth, 100 and 100. Everything there is pretty much the same.
So I don't have to change the feed rate and the plunge rate on the end mill?
Yep, so we could go
Because it was 80 and 80.
80 and 80 on that. I would use a 0.05 pass depth and the 40% step over. That'll work, should work fine for you on the end mill.
Okay. And I was thinking of the passes and everything. When it comes time to actually cut it out or what have you, I was thinking if I did more passes,
yeah,
it would be easier.
Yeah. And also here, we should always add a little ramp. This way, I like to add about a half-inch ramp on that.
Okay.
And then let's calculate that out. Okay, reset, preview visible.
Yeah, I like that.
That's looking pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
So now these areas in this large area here are much smoother because that 1/4-inch bit got in there and cleaned it up.
Okay.
So that helps. Okay, then our border, let's go look at our border. You could, well, I've switched to a 45 or a 90 degree on this, gives us a little bit nicer border. And I think I would recommend that. Pass depth.
0.5. And then 80 and 80.
80.
You think the 90 will give a more rounder border
well,
to
it
it?
doesn't give as steep as angle on the side. It's not as steep.
Okay.
And so you see that bevel right there?
Yeah, it
it's
still
not
gives
as
you
steep
one,
as
but
the
not as
60.
deep as the 60.
It gives you more like a picture frame look. So I think it's a better choice for the outside.
Yeah. Well, so that's going to be with just the border portion. When we do the cutout is where I would use, like you said, the 1/4. It's already doing 11 passes.
Yeah, so let's take a look at that. Again here, if I change that up to those same numbers we had before,
Mm-hmm.
now we're up to 21 passes, so it'll take a lot longer. But you're going through
Well,
1 inch
I
material.
mean, I'm just tired of stuff messing up directly at the end or after it's cut something perfectly fine and then all of a sudden it's ruined. Bamboo costs too much for that.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that should help. That should ease the pressure on your machine. Some of the
okay.
problems you're facing could be because your machine, if you were being too aggressive, it could be
And I'm
causing
thinking that's what it was, but I
maybe.
just didn't know how or what to change.
Well, those settings right there should be pretty safe for you.
Okay.
Uh, Again, as long as you're using nice, fresh, sharp bits,
Yeah,
that
I've
is
been okay with them. I haven't
good.
used them in a minute. So, um, and then we have a wood store here that I can go get because some of the Armada bits and you told me to go get, they're discontinued now.
Some of
So
the what? The
some
bits?
of the drill bits you advised me to
Oh,
go get, and I went to go get them as soon as you told me to. And but one of them got discontinued. And I forget which one it was, but I'm glad they sent mine out before they couldn't send no more out because Armada
oh,
wasn't
okay.
making them anymore. And I forget which one it was, but I at least have one. So when I know I can change the blade off of it. So I forget which one they told me that was being discontinued because I purposely ordered two. So this one came out wonderfully. I really like this one because I can use the border to paint like black. Their colors are black and gold. So I would
Okay.
highlight paint this black and gold, or I would leave it all wood.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. So this came out exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah, so this technique of adding that border, let me save this one here.
Okay.
Go back and look at that last one we had.
Okay. The
Um,
Kappa one,
yeah, I wanted to see what the border of that. I don't remember what we did for the border
I
of
don't think
that.
we did a border on those.
Oh, right, right. So for this one, you're gonna have to figure out.
Yeah, I still got to get through a few other things, and then I'm gonna try and do a border just like you showed me because yeah, the border needs to be with the banner and the shield itself.
So here's one way to do that. If I select both the border,
Mm-hmm.
let me do one thing. If I select the border line, the vector for both the banner and
Uh-huh.
that, and then I go into the offset tool, and let's do it. Let's see what it looks like if I do a 1/2 inch offset.
That's not bad. I like
And
that.
I'll do it again and again. And
But
now these
those
lines,
need to come out.
right, I don't need those.
Right.
And then on those, I can set up the same tool paths I did on the previous one.
Okay.
So that'll allow you to, play with those. And again, if you wanted to round these off, you could round some of those off to make them
Well,
smoother.
they're supposed to be like that. I may play with the
Yeah,
banner or something like that, but other
sure.
than that, that's the way it's supposed to look.
Okay. How about okay, let's see, the poodle one. I think I've
Yes. Did you
got
hit
that one
save? Did
here.
you hit save on this one?
I did, yeah. So
Okay.
let's close out on
Now
that.
that poodle one, I wasted $140 worth of wood on this one.
So here, when I looked at this, the first question I have for you, this is supposed to be one tall sign.
Correct. Now, my situation is I think I made it too wide, the poodle itself, because mine is the HD4 with the extended bed. So they said I was should be able to cut up to 6 feet tall, which is not true. That's not true. It's not letting me get a piece of wood on there 6 feet tall. You know what I mean?
Right. It'll
It
cut
because
it'll
it
cut up to 50, it'll cut up to 50 inches, I think is what
which
it'll
is
cut.
not 6 feet.
Right, not 6 feet. Nope.
Yeah, so the
Uh,
advertisement lied. It said I
okay.
could cut up to 6 feet and I can't. So
Well,
that frustrated me.
there is a technique called tiling that allows you to cut longer objects. Uh,
How?
well, let's go over a couple of things on that. We still got some time here. Let's take a look at this one.
And I think my piece of wood itself was too wide because I only have 30 inches width to work with. So technically, I
Right, but
can't even take my piece up to 30 inches because where would I bolt it down at? Because I have the T nuts for my bolt down pieces.
right.
So I can't do 30 inches wide. And I think that's another reason why it messed up too. So what do you recommend? Because I can't even go 30 inches wide. I think the widest I really need to go is maybe 24.
Well, that's the cutting area. Your cutting area is only about 24 and a half inches. And right now, you've got this drawing set up for 24 inches. So you're okay from that standpoint.
Okay.
And which would leave you a little bit of hold down with your clamps on the corners here, on the sides of it, if you wanted to.
So I don't know if I'm not holding it down enough, but I know I have to lift it off of the metal bed because of the simple fact I don't want the drill bit to hit it when it cuts it
Well,
out. You know what I mean?
yeah. So what you want to do for that situation is probably buy a piece of 1/4 inch MDF
I've tried that.
and lay that underneath it.
But see, I've tried that. So, okay. So even if I have MDF board here, but it's geared to cover the entire metal bed. So are you saying I should get a piece that's thinner than 24? Like, maybe 20, but then the length of it should only maybe be maybe 30 so I can bolt it down flat enough. You see what I mean?
Right. Um, so is this being cut out of bamboo
This
as
is
well?
pine. Nope. I'm starting to go with a little bit cheaper, but it was still $140 for two. And I messed up both of them. Those are the pictures I sent you.
Okay. Um, one way that I set my machine up is if this is we'll call that your machine bed.
The red part?
This one right here, the top one.
Okay. Okay.
That's your machine bed. That's your metal bed, your T slot bed.
Yep.
What I often will do is take and let me draw that to scale to make sure we're in good shape. So our width is, I think, like you said, it's about
It's 30 inches wide. And the height is oh Lord have mercy. I was able to get a 5 foot board on it.
well, it's 50. It's probably 6 feet long, but actually your cutting area is only about 50
It
inches.
does say 6 feet long. You are correct.
Yeah, yeah, but you can't cut a board. I mean, it doesn't
No,
cut that far.
no.
So, well, anyway, so from this standpoint, um, so do you? So you want to cut this all? So you can only make this poodle sign 4 feet tall. Then, I mean, you can make
Correct.
it taller. but it requires a special setup. So which way would you like? You want to make it taller?
I've cut 4 feet before and I was okay. So let's just do 4 feet. And
Okay,
then
then
you
I'm
can
going to go
tell
in here and
me
change.
how to do the other one
Yeah,
next.
yeah. So before we do that, let me take a look. I want to look at get your tool. We'll jump ahead to your tool paths for a minute. We'll come back to this. We're jumping
Okay.
around here a little bit. But I'll come back to talk about setting up your machine after we talk about your tool paths here a little bit.
Okay.
Like I said, usually when somebody sends me a file, the first thing I do is I go in and I preview the tool paths. And, first I'll just click, all tool
Yeah, just to
paths.
see what I did. So
And
this is what I tried to do. Okay. I wanted to kind of make it look like it's a letter on top of a letter instead of cutting everything separate and then gluing it on top. Like cutting the main shape of it and then cutting every piece separate and then gluing it on top. I wanted to kind of cut it fully by itself.
so this is kind of what you wanted right here.
Correct. And it was going
Okay.
good.
So a couple of problems that I see right off. One is
Okay.
your back here is really thin. See how thin that border is?
Yeah, and I don't think I meant it to be that thin, but again,
And
this is
then
why
the
I'm
other
asking.
thing is you've actually got another cutout around all these letters. So all these letters are going to fall out and the poodle's
I was trying different things.
Okay, so
And I
here's
don't think I deleted what I didn't want.
fair enough. So let's go first of all, and I'll just take that's
I wanted to pocket everything out.
Yep. So that's your pocket.
Correct.
Now,
And that's
first
what
of
it
all,
messed up on.
yep. Let's go look at the pocket. You're dealing with 3/4 inch material.
Yes.
So you probably shouldn't cut that pocket any deeper than maybe a 1/2 inch.
Okay.
In fact, depending on how strong you want your edge, let's go half the thickness of the material. And
okay.
You're pocketing that with an 1/8 inch bit. Probably, again, this is where we should be using the 1/4
fourth.
inch.
Okay.
So let's go find our 1/4 inch and select that and make sure those.
Yeah, 0.5 and 80 and 80.
Yep.
Is it 0.05 or 0.5?
0.05.
Okay.
Because 0.5 would be a 1/2 inch, and that's cutting too deep.
Okay.
0.05 is what you want.
Gotcha.
Okay, so we'll do that. And then we want to add some ramp to that. Always add some ramp. So let's cut that in. And so pocket.
I just named everything it was pocketed.
Yep. Okay. So that
to make it easy.
Reset, preview that. Okay. So now
okay,
for
that's
some
good.
reason, it got rid of your 9 also. So let's go back and.
Oh, that's because I was trying to do it separately because I knew I had the middle to do.
So
I don't know.
Yep. So here's a question, okay, let's just select this middle one right here.
So that technically needs to be with everything. Yeah, like not the middle half of it, because don't you have to pocket that separately? If you don't, let me know.
Let's try this. I think it's going to work.
Okay.
There you go.
That's what I want.
Yep. So that one's good.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. And now all we really have to do is do a cutout.
Yeah.
And this last cutout you see the blue line, it's cutting out in the correct area.
But then that's not what it was doing.
Well, you had, like you said, you had a couple of them set up. So it may be that they were set up the wrong place. So let's cut through that one. And again, you have an 1/8 inch set up here. We should be using a 1/4 inch for this. And if I change my dimensions in here, outside of the line, and again, we want to add some tabs to this also. That's something we haven't talked much about, but we want to add some tabs to hold things in there. So let's make those tabs an 1/8 inch. And then let's just add, I don't know, let's add 10 tabs in there. There we go.
Okay.
Now we don't want tabs on the inside like this because they're hard to get at. So I'm going to take and slide that one out up here. I like to put them on the outside of my curves.
Okay, just to
make them easier to access. Probably should have one down here anyway. Okay, let's go with that.
Okay.
Calculate. Okay, so now it has me kind of see maximum tool depth. Okay, so we've got this problem too. We're starting too deep. So we want to take and get rid of that start depth. We don't want a start depth on that. I noticed that was a problem with a couple of them too, is cutting too deep.
Well, the reason, because I thought because it pocketed it out already, I thought I had to start where the pocket finished.
Oh, well,
that's what I thought. Are you cutting on the line instead of outside?
Well, see, if you were cutting inside the line, I guess it depends on where you want your router bit to cut. You want that extra flat area. So if we cut to the outside, let's see how this looks.
So I like the flat area with it cutting on the outside.
There. So that gives you everything you want.
So why in the world was mine messing up? Like, like I said, I assumed it was going to cut my piece of wood. And when it got to the sigma up at the top, the second go around, it literally, I guess, didn't go all the way up. Yeah, you can delete everything else. I guess it didn't go all the way up and it starts slicing stuff. And I just didn't understand why. Like I said, it might be because.
Oh, you know what? Now I know what happened. When I saw your P cut the wrong way, I now know what happened. Here's what happened. Well, you have your project set up for 60 inches. Your tool can only cut 50 inches.
The base of the machine itself.
Well, your base is much bigger than your ability to cut.
Gotcha. So I need to pull that down.
See, that's as big as you could actually cut. So what happened was your machine hit the back of your machine, and then it
reset. So I have to make this smaller.
Yep. So let's first of all, let's set this at 50 inches for your material height. And then let's go in and recenter this like that. And now we need to make that smaller. So I'm going to go
in. Which is fine.
Scale that down and let's make that, say, 48 inches.
Yeah. What's 4 feet? 48?
Yep.
Is that enough room to play with though?
Yeah, let's go 44.
I'm like, that might not be enough room to play. Yeah. Because
There.
you taught us that too. You have
Yep.
to play with your um you have to leave enough room
For
for
clamping and such.
yes.
Okay, so now if we preview these, you really only need two tool paths for this. One is for the pocketing.
Okay.
There we've got the pockets,
Okay.
and then the other is the cutout. So there's your
Got you.
cutout.
So it was because I made it too large.
It was too long. That's what happened.
Got you.
Now going back to the table setup here, what I typically would do, so your material right now, this line right here represents your board. You see it's the same width and it's
Yes.
that thick.
Mm-hmm.
What I typically do in a situation like this is I would typically take and lay on top of my machine bed a piece of MDF that only has to be, it can be any thickness, but it doesn't have to be more than a 1/4 inch thick, really.
But I don't have to make the MDF board the same size as the material, is what you're saying?
It doesn't have to be identical. In fact, it could be a couple of, you could have a 2 by 2 foot there and a 2 by 2 up there. I mean, you could have two pieces that were, or you could have three pieces that were like that big.
Okay. But as long as it's narrow enough for my clamps to be on it, because remember, once I put the I have to clamp the MDF board down too, as well as
No, you
clamp down
don't.
my actual
No,
material.
no, you don't have to clamp the FDM board down. What you could, well, all you have to really do is just, let's see here.
I would only just have to clamp the material on top of the MDF.
Yep, just like that.
But I've tried that before, and then my whole board has slipped.
Well, you do have a very large board that you're holding down. So
3 of those pieces is what I would need.
you could put 3 pieces of MDF under there. That would be fine. Or it could be
just
one big
to
board.
just to give the board even balance and not bow in the middle.
Yeah, that's important. Yep. And it'll give a place
Okay.
for a bit to cut through.
And then I can put okay, so my question is, how many clamps do you recommend for a project this size?
Probably 5 on each side.
5 on the left, 5 on the right. What about top
Yep.
and bottom?
Yeah. Well, I mean, 5 on the left, 5 on the right. And then if you could,
2 or 3 at the top and bottom.
if you could get them in, but for the most part, it's the sides here that are going to be the most important.
Okay. So I shouldn't use anywhere between 10, 10 and 15.
Yeah, and there are some other, let me see here.
Because I don't know if the clamps I'm using, because the one they only gave me 2 that came with the machine.
Yeah,
like seriously, you give me 2?
Right.
And I'm trying to get clamps that are just as good. And I'm really not sure if I have clamps just as good. You know what I mean? And then am I putting them on right? Does the clamp part that's the short piece go on the material, or is it the longer piece that goes on the material?
Either piece could go on. You could also make your own clamps for something like this. Here, let me show you this picture here. So here's a.
Oh, did you save the SG row thing? I'm so sorry. My bad.
Oh yeah, I saved that. So let me save it like this. Save it as.
Thank you.
So notice here, some people have used some very simple clamps. I mean, some of these have made themselves, but find something here that might
See,
be
I have
simple.
ones like those Axiom CNC holders.
Like this, that's what you have?
No, the look to your left, the red ones right there, up one.
Oh, there.
Those. I have
Got it.
I have those similar to those and similar to the CNC cut cherry hold downs, two below that. Those are what my clamps look like.
Got it. Those are pretty standard clamps and they work fine. But again, you should probably have several of them.
Okay, so I need at least 5 and 5 on each side.
Yeah, that's what I'd recommend.
Okay.
So yours are probably like this over here too, right?
Yep. I got the red ones like that and black ones like that. Those exact ones, except they're red.
Yep. Yep. I'm familiar with those.
Okay, because I just get frustrated. Like, what size, what's the width I need to go? And you said no more than 24 as far as width, so I can clamp down 5 and 5.
Yeah.
Okay. And what I also noticed, if you go back to the CNC V-carve thing,
Yep.
what I also noticed is if you scroll in where I have dotted lines on mine, like the little dots on the, like if you zoom in, I didn't mean to say scroll, if you zoom in, my white isn't white, mine has the dots on it, like the grid or whatever.
That's this button up here at the top.
Okay, so what I'm noticing, yep. So if I bring that entire thing down to the first dotted line, it starts cutting right there. And that was another issue I was having because you told us to start on your corners. So I start on my right corner where we have the dot at. Yep, I start on the right. So I bring my stuff all the way down so it'll start. So I make sure I have enough playroom is what I'm trying to do. So another way trying to figure that out is frustrating. Like, is that too far up? You know, should I bring that whole thing down to the first gray dotted line? Or should I leave it on the second?
Right. Well, part of what you want to figure out on your machine, again, if so, let's see here, 30, 60. So that pretty much represents this outside line is your machine bed, your T-track.
That's right.
And you're going to have a few inches in the front and a few inches in the back and on the side where the machine can't cut.
Correct.
You want to bring your machine all the way forward and all the way. I'm not sure. Is there a reason that you're doing it on the right side?
I'm right-handed.
Oh, okay, that's fine. And that works. So you want to bring it down all the way bring your machine all the way down to the right, all the way to the front of the machine till it bumps the hard stop. You'll hear the motors grind a little bit, and that's okay.
Yep.
It's just the magnets. And then, so let's say that spot is right there. Then you want to move your material a little bit out from that, like a quarter of an inch out from that. Put your router bit over the corner of your material and zero it out.
And I have been doing that. However, when it starts, like, let's just say it's sitting right here. Okay. It's not on the first gray dotted line. Sometimes I feel this goes up too far, which doesn't leave me any playroom at the top of the material. And it'll cut off. You see what I mean?
I see. Well, okay. So you want to, and you're first of all, in your setup, you want to make sure and have these dimensions matching what your material is.
Right.
Okay. Then when you, so this white area is your material. Then when you position your material on your table, you want to take your router bit over this lower right corner and you want to do the XY zeroing routine at that corner.
On the edge of the material?
Right in the corner of the material.
Okay, and that's what I've been doing.
And if you do that, your router bit will not cut off of the material because all of your design is on top of the white material area. As long as you accurately zero out the XY location of the lower right corner here,
Okay.
you should be okay.
So one, I need to get smaller boards for this SG row thing, obviously. So basically no longer than 50, any of my material, it doesn't matter. No longer than 50, no wider than 24.
That would be the best thing for you to do. Yeah.
Okay. Then
And a lot of
50.
material out there is going to be 50 by 48. Or
Yeah,
rather,
I usually have them
24
cut
by
it down
48.
at my wood shop.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know I'm always going to be working in between 50 and 24, no matter what I'm doing.
Yeah. That's your work area.
Okay, so that would be my material area. So even when I do other crests and all of those different types of things, I still need to stay within that portion.
Yeah. So if you look at the picture right now, the outline here, that large rectangle represents your machine, the bed of your machine. The white area here represents your maximum cutting area. So you have to stay within that cutting area on your machine.
Okay. So if you save it just like this, that will help out a lot.
I
And
will
then
do
of
that.
course I can listen to the video again.
Sure.
And then you can save this as, I think you already saved it, I think.
Yep, I did.
And then I can listen to the video to let me know what is what. So I'll always probably use this particular setup for when I do anything anymore. Like, you know what I mean?
And then we chose router bit settings that should work for you also. So
Okay.
give those a try. And if you want to set up another training session, I'm available for that. But practice with these, practice the drawing, maybe get out. You might want to get out there and even cut a couple of little ones first before got some.
I was gonna try. I have some 14 by 14 small pieces of wood. And I was gonna change, them to be not necessarily 14 by 14, but 12 by 12. And that's why when I asked you the question, if I go anything smaller than a 14, should I still use a 60-degree bit, and should I still use the 1/4 bit to clear out?
You could start with the 60-degree bit. On smaller carving, the 60-degree bit actually is a better choice. That's a good choice.
So I still can, so even with the 12 by 12, I can use a 60?
Yeah, that'd still be a good choice.
Okay, and then can I use a 1/8 clearing instead of a 1/4 since it's smaller?
Sure.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I could do that. And if with me doing that, I think that would be great.
Yeah, you may still want to use your 1/4 inch for cutting it out, but the 1/8 inch will work for clearing.
Okay, good. I can do that. I think because I have a lot more practice boards that are 14 and 14 that will help me out a lot.
Okay.
So I think I'll try those on the Crests and stuff like the Alpha. I'll try an Alpha one like that. I'm even gonna try this little SG row in a 1/4 just to see how it'll come out.
Anything you can do to practice it before you go to your big board would probably be a good choice.
Okay, cool.
All right.
You're gonna send me the video by tomorrow or next day?
Yep, yeah, I should be able to get it out to you the next day or two. I'll take and upload it tonight and hopefully get it out to you tomorrow.
Okay, cool. And I probably will set up how often do you do sessions like this with people?
I can do them weekly if you like.
Let me try and get some stuff cut first, and let me get my Muse machine working first. So it'll probably
Okay,
be another week or two, because I
that's
need to get
fine.
the table and stuff set up, and I can just email you and ask.
Yep, that'll work just fine,
Okay,
Marjorie.
thank you. I really appreciate it.
Okay, take care.
Uh-huh, you too.
Catch up with you later.
Bye.
Bye.